Counsellor Lutterodt ese wadi kan at the first reaction about after say court ruling no by but em say still no Ghana for no be enti na maybe asinti enra one osebo angel drive host e twe nkomo na in fact we bie ne mani so and wo ka say judge no ruling ne de ontimi nka say enye papa eye papa but baby ono no ejina ne de omunyi ntum abusia
onye wache adia medase edia na be no makomu ni nyina ma reading ni nyina ubo bibia metima tro bi ewo na ka odi ade wo ho anka me ma wo kan 88 ne ma wo hu bibia se nkrofo bi di nkobo bi a ento ye because adia ba ko wo me say asema Mrs. Akosua Serwaa Fosu Lumber's legally wedded wife ede court no that issue yendi is still anameboa so but what even can
they recognize as the sole wife, wedded wife or
thank you
lumber. I said I don't
yeah boa
no na yebua anangwa.
So the conclusion was what? So that was that, so
they are recognized as wives.
No, so there is a judgment, but unfortunately, out of that judgment, the reason why she went to court, if you look at the beginning, why she went to seek for clearance at the court, have not yet been addressed. What is here? So, and before baby judgment na se etina ateli de judge no so anya boni bia the process has been the same but sebotie bibia see here in the judgment. Then number 88 they say the tendering in of these marriage certificates was objected by the learned counsel of the defendants. This objection has been raised during the hearing of the application of the interlocutory injunction on the 28th of October 2025. The court rejected the document and advised counsel for the plaintiff to ensure that they comply with the requirements under the Evidence Act 1975. It is therefore a surprise that the plaintiff did not comply with the requirements nearly a month later. So it's about literally by this communication.
Submitted documents.
And like I said, cross-examination question. And a lawyer back come say, Minji sakrata wentum. A son se bibian trese if you are bemu naba. And October 28th. Answer na judge make us or the krata na by 28th November wabu asem. Or catch the astute intelligence lawyer of Mrs. Akosua Serwaa said, Adia client or learned counsel can share Evidence Act 1975. I hope you read the Evidence Act. You know the act, what the act means. That any admissible document from a foreign land must go through authentication and certification. So, based on these acts, more or less where I sit, I am not against the judgment. This is a true judgment from a judge. But me, I am not happy with the judgment. And I think reason why we went to court, when I'm using we in affirmative, why Mrs. Akosua Serwaa went to court for clarification, have not been yet clarified. Why? Because the thing that she has to use so that the judge can state her status was not provided. I am confused. Because Akosua Serwaa was not able to prove that she's a Mrs., then the judge, in her leniency as a master's degree holder in arbitration and peaceful conflict resolution, a very learned judge, decided to bring peace by saying, if the proof by the cross-examination of Lawyer Kusi, with no objection, accepted the fact that Odo Broni was married by Daddy Lumba after Lawyer Kusi's cross-examination, then the intent of Odo Broni's group together with Sepenyi that the first marriage that was contracted between Lumba and Akosua Serwaa was nullified or dissolved is not true. Herein, the judgment came clearly. Those of you who are angry, those of you who don't understand what is going on, those of you who feel hurt, I am in your shoes. I agree. But the judgment was clear. That clearly speaking, in the year as we speak, where Lady Lumba died, he died leaving 2 wives under the customary marriage. That is what happened. 2 wives under the customary marriage. So the reason why courts will say this is very simple. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. She wanted to bring peace and has brought the peace. But Mrs. Akosua Serwaa says this is not what she's looking for. And for those of us who also are following proceedings based on documents that we have seen on social media, we also want to follow and say this judgment from the High Court is a true judgment by proceedings and procedures. But the original thing is that failure to give in the certificates through authentication and certification, the judge has made it clear in her last statement that the plaintiff was customarily married. And I'm reading from the judgment. I don't want to quote it. Somebody. It said the plaintiff was customarily married to the deceased Charles Kodiofosu, aka Daddy Lumba, in 1991 in Ghana. Number 2, the second defendant was customarily married to the deceased Charles Kodiofosu, aka Daddy Lumba, in 2010 in Ghana. I declare that the plaintiff and the second defendant, Priscilla Ofori and Akosua Serwaa are the surviving spouses of the deceased Charles Kodiofosu Daddy Lumba. The Ekuna Busia Prakosu in Suta Ashanti, represented by the head of Abusia Penyin Kofi Wusu, and the first defendant hereby order to recognize the plaintiff Akosua Serwaa and the second defendant Priscilla Oforiata as wives of the deceased man. Why? Because if there is no proof for the civil marriage, I want to hold on to the fact that the customary marriage that is recognized by the family by they coming to withdraw their challenge over Akosua Serwaa is intact. This is not why Akosua Serwaa Mrs. went to court. But what reason why she went to court is still hanging. That is still hanging. So for the rest of us who are still learning, this is a precedent that was not set for others to think, say, civil marriage, is not better. No. Said, this judgment has been passed. Nobody did wrong, but we will not accept it. It's also our stand. Cool.
Na yemfa into Ghana Counsellor Enso in fact, that reached Emma and I said, advice. What's the hello, I'm a 27-year-old fashion model, and I've done this since I was 21.
Counsellor Lutterodt Serwaa or the Abetu J, and a sporty video be a Afia Pokua film lady, as also any team at this case.
Sometimes, I am my emotions and sentiment, anyway, near the Nanyade. And court, no, and yeah, zombies, so court and Yabudiaba, and at one, what me I say. And to judge, and based on this ruling, I say a man a special award, may not. You see, before, no. Now my analysis say even on your show we said both of them me I support both of them and admit you. So I was so happy to hear say eventually judge and also went in the same direction. Now only few people na did do. Pagana phone I can tell you on authority say from within obi any age say judge and one disqualifying the pabako. Yeah, Dayamia says, they catch say, Judge, Otie, Lumba Sufre, any Ghana for Sufre, and no really know. Because technicality never, go back to me, I'm my opportunity, say, Munko, Namonsanko for original Nimbra. Put me, I say, Judge, if you were Chinchina or Pessoa de Akosua Serwaa. Obaka said, no, sadly, we want stamp it. And to Mofanko, Namunko stamp it, and family. Procedure na mwanye ni yino munko correct but the mere fact of buneni egu hono what I say there's also pay opportunity just like Akosua Serwaa so mistakes bebre ya wonu na buneni egu so no ono so ni mistake akra waye no buneni egu so we are not saying say Akosua Serwaa no on the angel or the problem no crash or double ni dey what me I say because we share the evidence on the ground now. The person is no longer married to Lumba. Lumba is married to Odobroni. Technicality doesn't come in here.
No, but and also na and bebre attack judge and say we change president that say ordinance ya ware de untumi ware bi nka ho nti ama omo ka ni nyina e ma na omo ware omo so omo ye team legal wife no omo nyina panic say na judge ne ka de a na je say omo nyina omo ware
judge na nkasa mama explain judge na nkasa. You see what they are refusing to understand. They say, me see, mistake been a buy. And I bear technicality. What me I say? The judge never said anywhere, say, why worry by ordinance? Ubet me ako wadabi. Or no picture say, because I dance here, actually say, why worry ordinance? No one farm, but I no picture. It is a one farm, my dear. And your mate say, what's why you fear warrior? Oh, 2 here, 4. What me I say? Aha, the 206 no yes you obey ordinance no. No ordinance no so no. And then the dear that's yes why ordinance no. No went to me and farmer. Do you get my point? Intinya ano na what the class sama judge no. Ebe jina judge no so e basa chief justice no obe transfer no. And I be punish no because that is not our rule. Emremo no ye will procedure. Ufi procedure so answer na law na nkasa so wo. Until law no will be bim, all right, but then procedure and won't follow. Yet to me, Jinaso, near Casa because we won't follow procedure and inti. And I may make a statement said, Judge in Impa said it is possible class wire ordinance. But because already in Ghana, of course, you soon said, my end disqualify Obiano. Or Bompire said, some opportunity bimra, non farm faso. Just like opportunity to buy out, they consider Akosua Serwaa. You get my point? Because in Master who disqualified the Akosua Serwaa, they better disqualify the first. Because you had the letters for say on one casa by her intention, or say one with Jai on one review. And I'm documenting by conduct on Ghana and I won't see you. That the Luma Benum Suya on ye Obedi Adriania on ye. And about yeah, when Palania say Sokode as Sokoi. I know it's supposed to be for man and woman. Wow. Ready, more fancy about
they will not accept it. And I say, Omu engine to Webusia. So Beja to mo say Omu engine to Moya de Waha. I the Becobiano Yamuason is in frame when so infra. ewo ho me ko de menya bia no me de beba wo hu se ye share wo no ye di so mesel se wo be follow ye wo Facebook and TikTok as AJ Gossips se wadin for video no ho na wi a omoden se wo be share amonu ya bi sa etumi akamedin e bi AJ